comfort and growth never coexist. That first company I joined, I was there for 8 years. I got 6 promotions. The way that I was able to earn those promotions is first, be great. The second part of this, John, is I had to show someone else how to be great.
I love that.
And the third part was...
You're recruiting high-level people, right? Like very, very high-level people. What kind of habits did you have to adopt to get to that position?
What you put in is what you get out. So my leadership would see me going above and beyond, would see me extend my hand. Instead of having a closed fist like a lot of my peers were doing, who knows if you open up your fist, things freely flow out and flow in.
There's actually a strong contrast between recruiting and selling. In a way, they're kind of the same thing. Really great salespeople, they understand that all selling is, hey, let me figure out what problem do you have, and then let me provide a solution. Same with recruiting.
Exactly. In our industry, it comes down to 3 things.
Yeah.
First of all, how is your leader pouring into you? The second one is lack of upward mobility. And the third one is always the third one is
If you could speak to 22-year-old Darren, what would you say to that person?
people don't rise to their vision or their goals, but they fall to their systems.
What are some of those systems then that you would recommend?
Yeah, so whatever.
Welcome to the VIP, the Valor Impact Podcast. My name is John Soriano. We believe that you can have it all, that you can be successful in all areas of your life, your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, that you do not have to choose between one or the other. And as you listen in, take notes, take it all in, ask yourself, how can I apply this today? How can I go out there and execute today? Because we're gonna teach you a wide range of things, from sales, from leadership, to finances, to mindset, to even how to have success in sales and in your marriage. And my only ask is that you like this video, you subscribe to it, you share it with somebody in the sales industry, and that you also ultimately go out there and execute on everything that you want. Welcome to the Valor Impact Podcast. Today we have a special guest. Actually, this is the first time we're doing this on the VIP. We usually have interviewed people that have had success in the sales space, like door-to-door, solar space specifically. But today we actually have an external speaker, someone that has had success in a different industry. So today I have my great friend Darren. He is the CEO of Thorough Group, which is a recruitment firm that specializes in the biomedical field. He's also had a lot of success leading sales teams in the past. He's a restaurateur, right? I think I got it right?
Yeah.
He owns different chains of Jamba Juice and Auntie Anne pretzels, right? And so he's a serial entrepreneur. And so Darren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, John. I am pumped to be here. This is going to be awesome.
Come on.
Yeah.
Well, hey, tell us a little bit about your background, because I'm still learning about just, exactly what it is that you do. I have a kind of big picture idea. You're heavy in the recruitment side of things, which I think every business, right? Everyone that's in the marketplace needs to understand how to recruit, because every company should be looking for top talent. Whether you're in solar, you're in alarms, you're in biomedical field, you're in the restaurant business, right? Everyone's looking for top talent. So kind of give us a background of just, what you do, how you got there, maybe even your previous company and what you learned there, just, anything that's relevant.
Yeah. So for me, I've always had this competitive edge that's been instilled ever since I was a young boy. Sports has been a pivotal part of my life. And I think that's where I've really kind of honed and cultivated that competitiveness. And so all through growing up and through high school, played 3 sports in high school. And I was honored to earn a full soccer scholarship in college. And that's where I really got a taste of recruitment. I remember how heavily recruited I was in high school. And I saw the tactics, I saw the strategy, I saw how these coaches and assistant coaches were really approaching my family and I. And so that right then planted a seed inside of me, John. Mm-hmm. And so I went through my business of college, and then a good friend of mine, who I considered like an older brother, a couple years older than me, we grew up together, was in the recruitment industry. And he said to me, Darren, you're one of the most driven, competitive people that I know. You'd be perfect for what I do. I'm in the Human Capital Solutions space. I was like,
what a great line. You'd be perfect for what I do. I love that line.
Oh, well, you had me hook, line, and sinker. He said, you're driven, you like to make money. You're not making any money right now, but you have aspirations to make some money. And so I said, tell me more. And right then and there, the seed was planted. I got plugged in with one of the best recruitment firms in the country. It's the largest privately held firm to this day, about a $14 billion firm. And what they taught me, John, was how to really identify with people, but then provide solutions. And so I started recruiting really right out of school. And let me quickly back up here. Before I joined this firm, I was recruiting for my university soccer and football players. So that was such a cool experience, to go into other students' homes, meet with their families, and really have that heart to heart. And when you believe something from the inside out, it's really not a sale. When you have that conviction, you have that ability to understand how the people are on the other side of the table are looking at things, then the solutions just come a lot easier. They float a lot easier. So yeah, I started in the recruitment industry in corporate America, and I started to work my way up. And I've been doing this for 20 years, which is wild. And I've worked for some of the largest publicly traded billion-dollar organizations. And John, over the last 14 years, I've been in senior executive leadership roles where I've led very large sales teams. And I've been responsible for P&Ls up to about $500 million.
Wow.
That was directly underneath my remit.
Yeah. Now, talk us through, so you started in that space, it looks like shortly after college, right? You worked yourself up to be the VP of North America of a very large company. I mean, what was that in between like? How were you able to, get promoted, and, what kind of habits did you have to adopt to get to that position? Because I mean, that's like the 1% of the 1% to get there. Like, what did that practically look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, that first company I told you that I joined pretty much right out of school after doing that internship at my university, it was the first opportunity where I really got to understand what a meritocracy really looks like. You eat what you kill. What you put in is what you get out. There was no hiding.
Right.
The high level of accountability was unlike anything that I'd seen besides being on sports teams, right? So John, there's 3 ways that I can tell you that I've been able to earn promotions. And that first company I joined, I was there for 8 years. I got 6 promotions, which honestly, humbly speaking, it's unheard of. But the way that I was able to earn those promotions is first, be great. I had to be great at the seat that I was in. I had to be great sitting at that desk and doing the job that was given to me to execute upon. So I had to be great. Then the second part of this, John, is I had to show someone else how to be great. Because when you give something away, when you're able to impart something to someone, you got to know it first, right? You can't give away something you don't have.
Wow.
So if you're not great, how can you be great? And the third part was do that next role from your current seat.
Yeah.
When no one asks you to, right? So my leadership would see me going above and beyond, would see me be proactive, would see me extend my hand. Instead of having a closed fist like a lot of my peers were doing because it was a meritocracy, John, who knows if you open up your fist, things freely flow out and flow in. So the way that I was able to get promoted throughout my entire career was be great, show someone else how to be great, and do that next role from your current seat.
Wow. I love that. I mean, it's, I remember in the military, my mentor taught me, John, be the rank before you become the rank.
Wow.
So I remember the first level of leadership in the military is a corporal, at least in the Marine Corps. And I was a Lance Corporal. I was like, man, I want to be a corporal really bad. They're like, yeah, okay, act like a corporal before you become one. And I was like, that's easy. Cool. What does a corporal do? They're usually earlier on time. They're more physically fit, right? They're staying later. They're asking, how can I serve? How can I help? And I did that. And 6 months later, I got promoted, and I actually got promoted earlier than what was standard in my in the job that I had in the military. So I absolutely love that. And I love hearing that story because I think, I really want to focus on recruiting, right? And which we will hear shortly. But it's crazy that in the first 5 minutes, you're just already just dropping bars and gold in line. And there's power in your testimony and what got you there. And I love hearing that, 6 promotions in 8 years, which, that's done with intention. So now talk to us. So you were there for a while. What inspired the transition to be like, I'm going to now go and bet on myself 100%? Like, not that you weren't betting on yourself before, but now you're a CEO of your company, still in the same space, right? I mean, it looked like you were good, right? It wasn't like you were down here, you were good, you were maybe comfortable, you were making great money there. So what inspired that change to be like, I'm now going to go all in and bet on me?
You just used, you used the buzzword, really the 5-letter word. I think it's 5 letters. That is kind of faux pas in our house, and that's comfort, right? It's actually 6 letters, but here we go. But basically, comfort was where I was living, man. It was where I was living for the last 7 years of my career. You know, once I got to the executive ranks in 2014, right? I felt like I had arrived. And then shortly after that, comfort started to settle in. And we have a saying in our household, in the Thevathasan household. It's our mantra, it's our credo, it's our battle cry that comfort and growth never coexist. If you think about that, John, comfort and growth never coexist. Anytime I've been comfortable, I haven't grown at the pace, velocity, or speed that I know that I've been called to.
Right.
And so a little bit of my story, I've worked for 4 publicly traded global recruitment firms, right, throughout my career. And since being at that first company for my first 8 years, I've been fortunate to never pick up the phone and look for a job. I've been headhunted. It's an interesting dynamic because that's what I do, right? So they're recruiting me to join their firm. And oftentimes I'm like, you need to position me in this way, right? And I'm coaching them. But look, I had kind of been there and done that. You know, I was managing out of the ivory tower. You know, I was managing a $500 million P&L, 500 salespeople, you know, offices all throughout the country that I was responsible for.
Right.
But I just wasn't fulfilled. I felt very, very comfortable. Hence, I wasn't growing where I needed to, in the places I needed to. And I had a calling in 2019 that was put on my life that to get out of the comfort zone. But I put that in the back burner. I put that in the back corner. But that calling just got too loud for me, and I needed to step out. And I'll tell you, my biggest cheerleader, my wife, had urged me to do this 4 years before I actually stepped out and decided to do it. So it got to a point where it was time to jump out. All the due diligence, all the planning was great, but I needed to move a muscle and change a thought. Yeah. And that was to step out.
Wow. And then now, being where you're at now, I mean, would you say that you have found that fulfillment that you were looking for?
You know, I don't think it's a destination or a milestone, but I can tell you I'm more fulfilled than I have been since I first started in the recruitment, human capital solutions industry. I feel like I did, you know, that kid right out of school where, you know, everything was new, that I was learning, I was developing, I was highly, highly engaged. So that's where I'm at now. Yeah. You know, we don't have the plethora of resources like I did, you know, working for these billion-dollar organizations. Sure. But we're developing it. Right, we're incubating it. We're growing it organically. We're coming up on a year that we've been in business, the Thorough Group, and I've learned more in the last 11 months than I have the last 11 years. Yeah,
come on. Now, what's cool about you though is, you know, you're actually juggling a lot of things. You know, I mean, of course, I'm sure by now people know you're also a husband. You're also a father. You know, so you have stuff going on, just to be a great husband, be a great father, but then also you have your restaurant. So tell me about that. You know, let's talk a little about that, and then we'll bring it back to the recruiting piece, because I love learning about recruiting, because again, I believe it's a skill set that whether you're in sales, you're a business owner, I mean, honestly, if you can learn how to recruit people for your product, your service, your vision, right, or you as a person, right, because at the end of the day, we're also recruiting others to believe in us. And man, it's a very valuable skill set. But before we get there, tell me about the restaurants, you know, like what made you get into that as well? And what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah. I've always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit that's been put to the side working in corporate America, which was great. I picked up so many amazing tools that I utilize that are in my tool bucket and on my tool belt. But look, the community that we're a part of is very, very entrepreneurial. And I've had a lot of friends, peers say, Darren, I have this great idea. I value how you look at business. not only from a pragmatic perspective, but also from an EQ perspective. And John, I think that's really developed because through my 20 years of being in the recruitment industry, I've estimated that I've worked with about 4,500 different companies. Working with 4,500 different companies, you really get a perspective of what works and what does not work, right?
Right.
And so I get pitched ideas quite often, being part of another ministry that I'm a part of called Pathfinders. So I had a good friend that approached me and said, hey, I've been thinking about opening up restaurants for 11 years. And here's what the opportunity looks like, but more importantly, here's some of the pitfalls. So my partner was very, very prepared, and I started poking holes in it, and there weren't a lot of holes to poke. So this is just a testament to having good partnerships, both in my recruitment firm and now with the restaurants that we've opened up. I have a great business partner. We have a phenomenal division of labor. It's important to know who's got what strengths, and what blind spots are there for a business partner, right? So we can kind of shore those up. So getting pitched this idea, doing our due diligence, getting around a multitude of counselors that we have in our corner, it made sense to move forward.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, you live a lifestyle of you can have it all. And I'm a huge advocate of that. I think sometimes people adopt the mindset of like, it's like an or mindset, or I can be successful here or here. You know, I can be a great husband or a great provider. I can be a present father or a great provider. I can have a healthy body or a great, whatever, like, but no, you can have an and mindset. Hey, I can be a great provider and a great husband and take care of my body, right? Or, hey, I can win here and here and here. Now, it requires a different version of you to be able to have those things and sustain those things. But I love that you live that life. And so to bring it back to recruitment, because I do want to spend time here, because you're clearly a master of your craft and you're recruiting high level people, right? Like very, very high level people. And so, you're recruiting people that have high, EQs and IQs, right? And so something that a good buddy of mine says, he says, recruitment is spelled T-I-M-E, time. And so I guess in your own words, how would you define what recruitment looks like, what it is, right? I think sometimes people feel this resistance, like, I don't want to recruit, right? They feel like this thing. But again, the truth is all of us are actually recruiting, because every time I meet somebody in some way, I'm recruiting them to believe in me as a leader, as a friend, as a whatever, right? And I have to understand these skill sets so that they can ultimately believe in me to lead them wherever or be a friend or those things. So how would you define recruitment? Like, what does that look like for you? Like, just like my friend calls it, he's like, hey, it's spelled T-I-M-E. That's what recruitment is. Just time. Spend time with people. And then eventually you'll get them bought into your vision.
Let me start off with the best recruit that I've ever landed. Is that all right?
Yeah.
We've told the audience that I'm married, and the best recruit that I've ever landed is my wife for a couple of different reasons.
Shout out Gina.
Come on, Gina. Not only is she beautiful inside and out, but she is actually the type of person we recruit in the industry that I'm in, which is pharma, biotech, and med device. So she is a subject matter expert, and she cures cancer. That's what she does on a daily basis. So once I landed her, then I knew it was all gravy from there. But I love what you said. Recruitment is spelled T-I-M-E, and I like to really distill things down in threes, if at all possible. Because I feel like it's better to compartmentalize in that way, John.
Yeah.
So first, anytime that I'm recruiting someone, any good recruiter, any person that has a high level EQ, you gotta be curious. Be curious, just like you're asking me questions right now. I feel very, very engaged in this podcast, right? Because they're well thought out, genuine, authentic, and earnest questions. So I'll give you an example. This morning, right, we have a client who reached out to us that wants to engage us in a high-level search. Well, instead of just saying, yes, that's something we can do, I said, well, I'm curious. I want to learn more before I can commit to this.
Yeah.
Let's set up a call so we can understand what you're looking for. So it's being curious. That's first and foremost, right? And then being engaged with that person. Oftentimes, right, I'm meeting people, my business partners at a networking event right now in San Francisco, right? I'm sure if he's meeting people and he's looking off to the left and to the right, looking at his phone, there's not a high level of engagement. In today's society, there's a lot of distractions, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to be curious, to be engaged, and then be dependable. Look, I feel the best ability is dependability.
Yeah.
And there's always a follow-up, right? Very rarely are we going to land a deal in that first interaction, whatever that may look like for you, right? So if you're able to follow through on what you said and be dependable, then I feel that's really encapsulates TIME, because that kind of spans across being engaged, being curious, and then being dependable. So those three things is how we approach any type of candidate or client. And oftentimes it's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to earn business with our clients, but then find a very, very passive candidate in our industry.
Yeah.
Because John, most of the people that we place are completely passive. They don't know the grass is green on the other side. Right? They're content. They've got a high level job, right? They're making whatever they're making. These people, do well for themselves.
Yeah.
So we need to be curious. We need to be engaged with them.
Yeah.
And we need to be dependable to the things that we said we would.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the more I learn about it, the more I see there's actually a strong contrast between recruiting and selling.
100%.
In a way, they're kind of the same thing, because like really great salespeople, they understand that all selling is, hey, let me figure out what problem do you have, and then let me provide a solution, right? And same with recruiting. I'm sure you're like, cool, what problem do you have? Like maybe are you at a company right now where you don't feel valued? Are you at a company right now where you feel like you're capped out with your salary, or maybe you want stock options or whatever? I'm sure in this time you figure out what's important to them. And some people, they value this. Some people value that. Some people, they're like, I want better leaders. Some people, I want more pay. Some people, I want more opportunity. I want a smaller company. I want a bigger company. Everyone has different thing. And then you figure out, it sounds like, what is that thing? And then you ultimately provide it and say, hey, this is, boom, I have a solution for you now.
Exactly. In our industry, once again, it comes down to three things.
Yeah.
Any industry, right? When people are looking to leave, we're tapping into these three areas. First of all, John, I don't know if you can identify with this. You have a great sales team, but people often don't leave companies. They leave their leadership, people, right? So we're asking, hey, are you getting fulfilled? How is your leader pouring into you, right? Do you feel like you're getting equipped? So that's number one, right? The second one is lack of upward mobility. What does your next promotion look like? How far away are you from that?
Yeah.
I see you've been in your role for 3 years. What's going on there? Do you have a ceiling over you right now? Right. And the third one is always money. So it's leadership, lack of upward mobility or lack of trajectory. And the third one is money.
Yeah.
No,
I love that. I mean, no, I can relate 100%. It's the same thing in our industry. Actually, we started seeing a problem a few years ago where, at least in our industry, there's a setter position, which they're the ones that set appointments. Then there's a closer, right? The people that go in homes and close the deals. But then between that and then there's like the management group. But there's usually actually this big gap. And we started to see a trend where, man, there's a lot of turnover of the closer group because they don't see any upward mobility to be like, how can I be a manager? And so you see this revolving door of people in our industry that they're just going company to company to company, and retention is low because they don't see like the jump for them to get into management is like too high, and they just can't do it, or so they quit. And so we're like, hey, why don't we build out a program? We call it Valor DNA, and it's a program where we take care of these people that have shown they're good salespeople. They're not yet ready for management, right? Maybe they need a little bit more, leadership training, recruiting training, all that stuff. But we give them this new position, and ever since we implemented this 2 years ago, and ever since we've done that, I mean, our retention is 9 day different. Like we haven't, I think since the inception of the program, we've had maybe a total of 50 people go through it, of people who we've identified as up and comers. And out of those 50, maybe like only 5 have like actually left our company, right? But we're retaining 90% of our people, right? Are good people too, right? We're retaining them, and they're also being recruited by other companies, but they're like, no, I have a progression path here. And you're totally right. The moment people feel like either A, their leaders don't care about them, B, they have no more upward mobility, or C, they're capped out, money wise, then that's when they start now looking around, they get curious. But yeah, if people Or if you're recruiting them, if you can get them to see where you're at, right, you can give them that, man, that's when really a lot of explosion happens within your company. So no, that's super, super great. What would you say now you don't recruit everybody. And so, because nobody has a 100% recruitment ratio, right? So let's say you're recruiting somebody and they decide not to go with you. Oftentimes what I see people do is they just kind of like have this like, all right, next mentality, which is not all wrong, but do you do something to where you're like, you know what, maybe I didn't get him today, but maybe I can get him in 6 months. Maybe I can get him in a year. Something I learned from the founder of Legacy is they never burn a bridge. When somebody leaves, they stay in contact with them once a month. Maybe they'll send them a text. Hey, how you doing? Thinking about you. How's life? And then 6 months later, a year later, all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I actually want to go work over there. So like, what are some strategies that you do that for people that maybe you don't get, but like, do you stay in touch with them? Like, what do you do to still maybe have it be an opportunity in the future?
I'm smiling because this is a very, very relevant question. Following the recording of this podcast, I'm going to be speaking with a gentleman that I'm hopeful is going to open up our Boston office.
Great.
Now we've been talking with him for months, right? Months. And so let me just kind of like clear the air a bit here. Is your question more for joining our team internally at Thorough Group or people that we're trying to recruit like externally?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the internal team.
Okay.
Right. Because I think it's more applicable when we're looking to have people come in to develop their sales skills, leverage their network. As we've been growing Thorough Group over the last 11 months, there's been people that just have not fit in from a cultural perspective. Yeah. That's important, right? I do believe that you need to clearly define your culture because people are going to be attracted to it or not. And culture is not what you create, it's what you tolerate, right? So we're constantly talking about what are the things that we're sweeping underneath the rug because anyone that we bring on board is going to be able to identify that. Now, getting back to your question, I never burn a bridge. I've just been doing this long enough to where I see people come back around. And listen, a negative interaction is going to travel much faster than a positive one. It's human nature, unfortunately. So we were very, very close to hiring on a very, very high level person, right, to launch a new business unit for us at Thorough Group called Thorough Engineering. And we've been talking to this gentleman for 3 months, actually 4 months. And it got to the point where we knew there wasn't going to be an alignment and we needed to pull the plug. But what I told this person, I said, look, if there's anything that I can do to support you, if there's any way that I can advocate or champion on your behalf, even though it's not here at Thorough Group, I want to do that for you. So I'm extending my hand. I didn't say that, but sure. Essentially that's what I was saying to them. And so we've had dialogue since. We've texted each other. He's asked me for advice. And, the response typically is like, that's it. You're kind of cut off. There's no opportunity for us to partner right now. I don't look at things that way. I've seen how things come back. So I earnestly, authentically like extend my hand to someone and say, if there's anything that I can do to help you, it didn't work out with us now, that perhaps there is a path forward down the road. Yeah. So I always leave that door open.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. And that's, never burn a bridge.
Right.
I love that. Now, what are some questions like to kind of, you said earlier, you get curious. And so are there any particular questions that you like to ask people? Like give an example for me, a question I like to ask people when, they're curious about wanting to get in the solar industry or wanting, anything. Yeah. Or wanting to work with us. Right. I'll say, hey, what's most important to you? Because usually if I can figure out what's important to them, maybe for them, it's, hey, I want to retire my wife in the sense of I want my wife to be home and not have to work. And so she can raise their kids. Right. Maybe that's important to them. Maybe what's important to them is to buy a home. Right. Maybe what's important to them is to pay off their debt. And so like, that's a question I know I like to ask because that definitely helps me figure out how I can paint the vision for them as to what they're needing and what they're looking for. It maybe is found here. And so do you have like a set of questions that you ask? Like, how do you structure these meetings when you're, recruiting somebody, whether it be internally or externally, right? Like how are you, is there like a structure that you have?
I do. Yeah. Look, I believe in behavioral interviewing. So asking questions that are going to really dig the gold out of people to understand what motivates them. I love the question you just mentioned. But a good way for me to clearly understand what's motivating someone, or conversely, not motivating someone, is I ask this question almost every single time I'm interviewing someone. Tell me what you're not looking for in your next role. And
like the inversion theory.
Listen, I'll tell you exactly right.
Yeah.
Every time I ask that question, people are like, I've never been asked that question.
Yeah.
And so then they start telling me the things that they're not interested in, right? Or if they're not forthright, I can smell that. You know, like I said, I've been doing this a while. So so it allows me to better understand, is this person a good fit? Because if they're talking to me at that stage of the interview, they have some understanding of what the role is, what the opportunity looks like. So they've already kind of sorted through and synthesized, you know, what this opportunity looks like. Yeah. But then I'm able to really hone in and go down a different path of behavioral interviewing to understand, is this person going to fit in, not only from a cultural perspective, but look, do they have what it takes, you know, to have that grit, resilience, perseverance, those types of things. So when I open that up, there are literally thousands of ways I can go, you know, and really save time, you know, or invest time into that person.
Yeah, that's great. Now, on a personal matter, you know, I know you're a proud husband, proud father. How have you seen being a father and being a husband? How has that helped you in your business ventures? I know for me, the more responsibility I've taken on, the more I feel called to excel and be great. Like you mentioned, right? Like the first thing, be great, right? Be great at what you do. And so like, what are just like, how is being a father? Cause I think one of the greatest hacks in having success in the marketplace is like, hey, go be a husband or wife, or go be a father or husband, because all of a sudden you have more responsibility and it actually levels you up. Yeah. So just on a personal matter, like how have you seen that help you with where you're at today?
That's a great question. John, you know, it's allowed me to understand what convergence looks like for me. And convergence for me means when I'm in the flow. All right. So the way that I define convergence is where purpose meets passion. Yeah. Okay. So purpose is really the things that I give my family, you know, that I give my kids, give my marriage, give my professions, the businesses that we run. That's kind of an outflow, right? But what's reciprocated back is an inflow, and that's the passion, right? So that's what all those things that I invest my time, energy, even money into, when those things are reciprocated back and there's an inflow of those things, that's where convergence happens, where purpose meets passion. So being a father, being a husband has allowed me to expand my purpose. Like I remember, you know, if I can be vulnerable, with you guys, you know, when I was single and quite honestly making great money, you know, at 22, 23, 24, more money than my parents ever made, my purpose wasn't clear. It just wasn't clear, right? But now I'm meeting the love of my life and having two amazing children. That purpose has been clarified. It's given me more of a laser focus. But the things that I receive from that fuel me on those days that I don't want to put one foot in front of the other. You know, I just have no choice. So really, in summation, it's where purpose meets passion, and having those things have given me a greater sense of purpose.
Yeah, and speaking of fuel, I want to know too, how do you get through your hard days? How do you get through your hard moments? I mean, you know, being the CEO now, right? Like everything falls and rests on you, right? You know, and so I'm sure you have your bad days, you have your bad weeks, you have moments of challenge, moments of adversity. What have you used as fuel to get you through that?
Yeah, my faith is everything to me. Yeah. It's the bedrock. Allows me to not live between my two ears too long, because that's a dangerous place for me to live. If I'm in my head too much. It's having really a good board of directors, you know, guys that I can go to that can call me out on my stinking thinking and say like, dude, you're looking at this the wrong way, or get out of your own head. It's also, I'm really big into fitness. You know, like I said, I played soccer in college, but that's that's kind of transpired to doing endurance races and things like that.
Marathon runner, come on. You've actually kind of, I don't think I've ever told you this, but you've kind of, you're like starting to inspire me to also commit to doing a marathon. I saw you do yours a few months ago, and
yeah, Ironman.
Ironman.
Did Ironman.
Sorry, wait, well, I think that's like a marathon's a third of what you did.
Yeah. Ironman. But John, maybe we could get this settled right now. You and some other people that you know really well are committing to doing a marathon this June.
Come on.
So
let's
just
go.
putting the invite
I'm
out
doing
there.
a Spartan race April.
So it's perfect. You can do a marathon right after that.
That's right.
2 months later.
Yeah.
But no, that's massive for me to have that outlet too, and just to kind of be and hear from God. When I do those things, I don't listen to anything.
Yeah.
So
no, I love that. And even on the fitness component, I think, you sometimes see people think that to have success in business or in the marketplace, you have to go all in on it and then sacrifice everything else. But going back to the whole, you can have it all. It's like, no, you can crush it there but still be all in on your fitness, still be all in on your faith, right? Still leave room for those things. And you'll be a more complete person, a more happier person. And, but yeah, I've seen often people and I know I went through seasons where I sacrificed more things than I should have in my pursuit, thinking that that's what success was. But now actually I've seen that no, success is actually the journey, right? It's not this destination, it's this journey. And so, hey, if it's the journey, then I want to dictate what that journey looks like, right? And so if I want to incorporate faith along it, great, because faith is also important to me, right?
Something I was just going to mention is the teams that I've had the honor of leading. I talk about being a culture of and, right? Mm-hmm. We don't talk about ors or buts. It's a culture of and so when we think like that, time somehow expands.
Yeah,
it truly does. So it's been paramount for me to think that way.
Yeah,
have the culture of and.
Yeah. So as we come to a close, which is crazy, we've already been at this for about close to 40 minutes. Feels like 10. Lots of wisdom and bars from you. I always like asking this question, because most of the audience that listens to this, they're in the marketplace, they're in sales, right? I mean, I would say maybe we have more of a solar door-to-door kind of people. And so, they're young, call it entrepreneurs, right? And so what advice, you've been someone that's been in the marketplace for, 20 or so years, right? And you're definitely no novice to that, right? With your restaurants and now your recruiting company. And so what advice would you give to just a young entrepreneur, someone that is maybe, if you could speak to 22-year-old Darren, when you first started, like essentially what would you say to that person? Yeah.
Take advantage of the blueprints that have really been laid out for you. I feel, even though it was a really good first step into joining a company and having acceleration, I wanted to figure out things my own way, and who knows, perhaps it could have been 8 promotions in 8 years. But I remember being stubborn and thinking that I had all the answers, and I wasn't open to feedback early in my career. I had a hard time accepting feedback. And John, something that has been critical for the businesses that I've been involved with is having a feedback-rich environment.
FRE.
FRE, one letter short of free. But I had to have people speak into my life, and I wasn't open to that. Wow. So I would tell the audience, really try to check pride and ego at the door if you can. I know it's hard when you first get into somewhere, but the more that you can have those walls come down, the more it can get in. And utilize blueprints, utilize systems that are in place. In the book, Good to Great, it talks about people don't rise to their vision or their goals, but they fall to their systems. I didn't really rely on systems my first year, I just really got lucky. But I'd rather be really systematized rather than lucky. So that's what I would say.
What are some of those systems then that you would recommend?
Yeah, so whatever like KPIs that Legacy Valor has, they're tried and true. I thought I could shortcut, I could curtail what those really systems look like. I thought, well, I can do a third of what they're saying and still get the results. But I was getting a third of the results, or even less than that. While my other peers were. It's not until I really checked pride and ego at the door and started doing those things, did I see the results? Did I see the fruit?
Yeah.
So that was vital for me, you know, because so many had gone before me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So good, Darren. Thank you so much for your wisdom. And so as we come to a close, if people want to learn more about you, maybe someone watching this is like, hey, I want to get in his space, you know, like I want to do what he does, you know, cause I know some people that love to recruit, man. They are such great recruiters and they just have the gift for it. And so if someone wants to get connected with you or learn more about your story, how can they get in contact with you?
So I have a very large presence on LinkedIn. That's kind of where the people that we rub elbows with kind of live. So I have every week, 3-4 different posts that come out on LinkedIn. Whether our podcast called Thoroughly Thriving, the name of my recruitment firm is Thorough Group, which is a combination of my last name and my partner's last name. But it's also how we support our industry in a very thorough fashion. So we're on LinkedIn, Darren Thevathasan. You can find me on LinkedIn. Instagram is DJ Theva, half of my last name and the number 11. It's my number all in sports. Because John, who knows that what's better than one number one? 2 number ones. That's why I have the 11 my entire life. So, but I'm on Instagram, but mainly on LinkedIn. And
which, by the way, when he says he's on LinkedIn, I mean, my man is like viral on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You get, I don't know how many impressions, a lot. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, I've never met somebody who like is actually killing it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's big.
You're the first person I remember on your page and you just have like thousands of likes and impressions and comments. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
You clearly you clearly are a master of because you're right. Your type of clientele is on LinkedIn.
They are.
Right. And so like my clientele is usually on Instagram and stuff like that, which is why we're more on Instagram. So I love that. But yes, find them on LinkedIn.
Let's go. Would love to connect.
Yes.
Love to connect with you.
Well, great. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. And Darren, thank you again.
Yeah,
and
it's an honor.
We'll catch you in the next one.